Hey guys, it's Vito Vila Energy Healing. Welcome to my channel. So this is going to be a collective reading for the month of August. Now, these messages may not resonate with everyone out there, so please just take what resonates with you and leave out the rest. All right, let's see what's going on for you guys this month. You know, August feels like one of those months where you can't keep pretending that you don't know what's going on anymore. Right? It's like you've been giving somebody the benefit of the doubt or making excuses for them, trying to be patient or hoping things would just eventually change. But at this point, you already know exactly what you're dealing with. Okay, for some of you, this could involve a Libra, Gemini, or a Virgo, or somebody with initials like M, J, or C. Okay, this is somebody smart, notices everything, and they know exactly what's going on. August feels like it's going to be a reality check for a lot of you. Right? You're going to stop focusing on what you hope is true and just start opening up your eyes to what's right in front of you. And a lot of you are dealing with a situation where, you're trying to figure out if something can actually be fixed or if you're just wasting your time. This feels like communication, teamwork, relationships, family situations, work situations, or even friendships where both people are supposed to be working together. But, it just feels like one person's doing a lot more than the other. It's like you're sitting there trying to meet somebody halfway, trying to figure things out, trying to keep things moving forward. And you're starting to notice that not everybody's putting in the same effort. Okay. And that's part of what's frustrating right now because you shouldn't have to do all the work just to keep something together. And the problem is nobody's really saying what they really mean and what's actually wrong. It's like everybody knows there's an issue, right? But instead of dealing with it, somebody's keeping to themselves because they don't want to talk about certain things. So they just act like everything's fine and pretend like it's not a big deal. Okay, you've noticed things that don't add up. And every time you try to get to the bottom of it, it's like you're only getting half the story. Some of you are dealing with people who expect you to just figure things out on your own instead of telling you what's going on. And after a while, you get annoyed because you can't fix something if you don't have all the information. And that's what's making this so frustrating because instead of, trusting what you're seeing, a lot of you just keep talking yourselves out of it. Now, at some point, you have to stop making excuses for people and just start paying attention to what they're showing you. What this all comes down to is that a lot of you are just finally starting to see certain situations for what they actually are. For the longest time, you just kept going back and forth in your head, trying to figure people out, trying to make sense of things, or wondering if maybe you were overreacting. But little by little, you started noticing what someone was doing or how they were acting, and you started realizing that, some of those things that you've been questioning, you probably weren't too far off. And once you start seeing things for what they really are, it's kind of hard to go back pretending that you don't. And, if you think back to like last winter, that's when a lot of you were feeling, or when a lot of you were like really trying to make something work. You were putting in the effort. You're being patient, showing up, having conversations and giving people chances and doing everything that you could do to keep things moving in the right direction. But some of you spent months just trying to understand somebody and trying to support them or, trying to fix the situation that just wasn't getting any better. And now you're realizing just how much time and energy you wasted on something that wasn't doing anything for you. And at this point, a lot of you are just tired. Okay. You're tired of the same conversations, dealing with the same problems and watching the same patterns repeat themselves over and over again. It feels like you've been patient for a long time, but now you're just starting to run out of patience. Some of you have your guard up because you've already been disappointed too many times and you don't want to get your hopes up just to end up right back where you started. At this point, you're paying a lot more attention to what people do instead of what they say. And around August 20th to about the 25th, something starts making a lot more sense. Okay, this feels like a situation where you've been, hoping something would eventually get better or become more stable or finally start moving in the right direction. But you're starting to realize that, some people are perfectly comfortable just staying exactly where they are. They keep saying they're going to change or fix something or do better, but their actions just keep telling a different story. This is when a lot of you just stop waiting for people to get their act together and just start focusing on what's best for you. And one thing that a lot of you are starting to realize this month is that You'd rather know the truth than to just keep believing something that isn't real. Okay, you're done making excuses for people. You're done ignoring the red flags, and you're done pretending that certain things don't bother you when they do. At this point, you'd rather know exactly where you stand than just keep guessing. And, the more honest that you are with yourself about what you're dealing with, the easier it becomes to, make decisions that are actually good for you. And some of you are dealing with somebody who, I don't know, they just take forever to do things. Okay, I'm picking up on a lot of zodiac signs here. Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, Cancer, Leo, Sagittarius, Gemini, Libra. They could have initials like M, J, C, S, or T. Okay, this is somebody who's stubborn, set in their ways, and just takes a long time to make up their mind about anything. Okay, they don't like being rushed, they don't like change, and they definitely don't like being told what to do. Okay, the problem is, while they're sitting there taking their sweet ass time, trying to figure things out, you're getting tired of waiting. And that's creating even more distance between the two of you. But at the same time, a lot of you are just scared of getting pulled right back into the same situation all over again. You've worked too hard to get to where you are just to end up, dealing with the same stress and confusion and disappointment. Some of you still care about certain people, but that doesn't mean that you forgot everything that happened. Okay, and that's where the struggle comes from because, part of you wants to believe things could be different, while another part of you just doesn't want to get hurt again. At this point, you're just trying not to make the same mistake twice. Okay, and by August 26th to about the 31st, a lot of you are just finally reaching a point where you're done fighting battles that you don't need to fight anymore. You've been dealing with way too much, trying to figure people out, trying to keep things together, and, just trying to make sense of situations that were only stressing you out. And at some point, you just get tired of it, okay? You're going to realize that not everything is your responsibility. Some things are just not your problem. Sometimes people have to figure things out on their own. And once you stop putting in so much time and energy into things that aren't doing anything for you, everything starts feeling a little bit easier. All right, guys, that's what I have for you today. If you're enjoying my readings, follow me or subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you'd like to book a session, just head over to my website, VeloEnergyHealing.com, or you could just message me directly. All right, thanks for watching, and until next time, sending you love.